Turner Yell makes the stop in the secondary for Denver. 1st and 10. The fake. Good block in there, and down it goes. Caught at the 30.
Welcome to the Fins tailgate. It's where we elevate. Miami Dolphins talk, yeah, we never hesitate. Breaking news, hot takes, we keep it up to date. And when the fans speak up, the panel resonates. We live that aqua and orange from the field to the mic. Breaking down the plays, man, we talk it every night. From Tua to the defense, you know we keep it tight. NFL moves, you know we got the insight. We open up the floor, yeah, it's your time to shine. Fans drop the heat with opinions realigned. You got concerns, bring them, we're gonna chime. The Fins tailgates, where we keep it prime. Welcome to the Fins tailgate, it's where we elevate. Miami Dolphins talk, yeah, we never hesitate. Breaking news, hot takes, we keep it up to date. And when the fans speak up, the panel resonates. The NFL's changing, but we stay on the grind. Latest breaking stories, we don't waste no time. From the trades to the rumors, we make them all align. At the Fins tailgate, we always on the climb. We're repping the Dolphins, but it's NFL wide. From South Beach to the league, we keep it worldwide. Got the fans engaged with the energy supplied. Come kick it at the tailgate, we're riding high tide. Welcome to the Fins tailgate, it's where we elevate. Miami Dolphins talk, yeah, we never hesitate. Breaking news, hot takes, we keep it up to date. And when the fans speak up, the panel resonates. So if you love the game, you know we got the gate. Tune in, speak out, don't wait, it's your fate. This is the Fins tailgate, now watch us dominate. Miami Dolphins, NFL, yeah, we integrate.
What is happening, Dolphins fans, and welcome to another episode of the Fins Tailgate with your host, El Capitan. Tonight on the tailgate party that never seems to stop. Well, if you watched last night's show, Ali kind of mentioned it there towards the end about Keenan Allen being rumored to the Dolphins. It having its reverberations throughout the community. People talking about it. People wanting him. People not wanting him. Putting respect on his name. Is he washed up? We're going to get into all of it. Also, you know, we're getting close to the season. I mean, a couple weeks away, everybody's going to be coming to camp. I think like 2.5 weeks, right? And also, you know, then you're going to turn around. There'll be preseason games being held. And then this season starts. Now it's time to shore some things up. One of them being very important, Zack Sieler. And what I would say is a super important issue. He's definitely outplayed his contract's worth and wants more money. We're going to get into all that as well. Shout out to everybody making it in here in chat. I see John's in here telling everybody to hit that like button. Everybody, please hit the like button. Get those likes up. Make sure you guys are, hitting that like button. That's all we ask, you know. So, and then who else? Yeah, Michael K. I'm going to hit you up. I'll hit you up after the show. Daniel Barry Sports in this. What's up, Daniel? Salute. Hit the like button. Cap for life making it in here. What's good, Cap? Keenan Allen is Beckham 2.0. Maybe. Very well may be. Costa Notre says, wow, the cross-dresser has said something sensible. Cross-dresser? Who? This guy? Talking about Michael K? Look what the cat drug in. DTA in the hood. What's up, DTA? Look at this. Frozen Fin fan, what's up? What's up? Moving through the live streams. Keep it moving. You know what's good. Joe Rist in the building. What's up, Joe? Hit the like button. Shout out to the entire Fins tailgate. Salute to everyone. Go Fins. What up, Lou? Salute. So make sure everybody's hitting the like button, subscribing if you're new. If you're watching on X or anywhere else you're getting the program, make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button, joining the family and the membership if you can afford. We've got all different plans for membership. You get some cool emojis and some good stuff like that. So, what's up, Liz? What's going on? So, also, guys, make sure you're checking out tftgnetwork.com. Got all the great stuff. Shirts, hats, freaking flip-flops. I mean, there's so much cool Miami Dolphins attire and sports attire and things you can get that are not just Miami Dolphins centric, but also some of the show's centric stuff. So make sure you guys are checking out tftgnetwork.com.
Get ready to dive into a new world of online shopping with the Fins Tailgate. Whether you're a die-hard sports fan or just looking for the latest fashion trends, we've got you covered. With a wide variety of products from your favorite sports teams to stylish accessories and home decor, we're your one-stop shop for all things tailgate. Our easy-to-use website and hassle-free checkout process make shopping with us a breeze. Plus, with frequent sales and discounts, you won't want to shop anywhere else. So come on in and join the party at the Fins Tailgate, your new go-to destination for all things tailgate.
tftgnetwork.com. That's where the hub for the family. You know, if you ever come here and it's like, the channel's been, they finally did it. the boys over there at the tailgate finally got thrown off the internet. That might have to be home base one day because we live it on the edge. You know, we tell it how it is, and the powers that be certainly don't want to befriend the tailgate here. Linda in chat. What's up, Linda? Hey, El Capitan. I enjoy watching your channel tonight. Go Dolphins. Well, salute. Thank you, Linda. Appreciate you. Welcome. Dicker the Kicker says, Keenan Asante. Raph in here, too. What's up, Raph? Make sure you guys are all hitting the like button. Fins, New Jersey. How we doing, Fins fam? Better now that you're here, bro. Better now that you're here. We talked about Asante Samuel's dad hating us yesterday, but really kind of calling out what everybody's been calling out. So, Jamie, what's going on, buddy? Hit the like button, my brother. So now that everybody's getting up in here and we're slowly getting them in, get those likes up. Let's kind of get into it just a little bit. So, Ali brought this to our attention. Now, this is just a rumor, right? That Keenan Allen and the Miami Dolphins have some mutual interest. Now, this is a news flash to me, right? This is a news flash to me. First of all, do we need another wide receiver? Didn't we get Akeem Hines Hicks, whatever the frig his name is, to be the new slot guy, the big, the deep threat, the high point in the red zone kind of guy? Now, he's no Keenan Allen. But is Keenan Allen Keenan Allen? I mean, the guy's getting a little long in the tooth. I get it. He had like 70 receptions and 700 yards last year with the Bears. But what exactly is the logic in bringing in an aging veteran? It's just crazy to me, right? Like to me, it's a common theme. You throw a name, something people have heard, something people put on their fantasy football teams, and the Miami Dolphins go, ooh, shiny object, Keenan Allen, ooh, shiny object, Darren Waller. I mean, it's Odell Beckham, Will Fuller. Shall I continue? What kind of money are we talking here? What kind of money did he get last year with the Bears? That's actually a really good question. Let me look that up just momentarily. Give me a second. He's currently under a 4-year, $80 million deal that the Bears went from LA. Let's see. Why would the Bears get rid of him? He's already accounted for $23 million on the cap hit. I guess because he's only got $5 million in dead cap if they get rid of him. So oh no, wait. My bad. No, he's a UDFA. That's what it is. I was gonna say, damn. He's a UDFA. He's also already accrued on this cap. He's making $11 million already in paid monies for the deleted year that he's in. He could take just a couple bones and be happy. But why on earth would the Miami Dolphins choose to add an aging, advancing player like Keenan Allen? Is this the right move? Is it just because he's a vet? Is this locker room filled with young, inexperienced guys? I don't think so. I mean, the most inexperienced guy that I can think of off the top of my head is Taj Washington, but it technically is his second year. It's not like he's a rookie. We're bringing in Keenan Allen for some of these UDFAs we're hoping to shake out. Well, if they do shake out, how am I going to keep him if Keenan Allen's here? You see what I'm saying? It's a conundrum. It's a quandary. It's what I'd like to call a quagmire, if you will. If you were to bring a guy like Keenan Allen in, what type of money are we talking? He's already getting $11 million, but I don't mean he's getting $11 million from the, right now. I already got that money. Can't tell me, oh, you got my money. No, I want more money. How much? And if we're going to be throwing money around here, well, in our second segment of the show, shouldn't we give some first to Zack Sieler? Also, do we need more wide receivers taking up more of the cap space? Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle amount to over $54 million. We did that yesterday. I don't know what the new guy's getting, but still, I think we ain't happy unless we're spending $80 million a year in our wide receiver. Like, what are we talking here? They added Odell and took a shot and paid him more than he should have gotten last year. But they had the flexibility because that money from Jalen Waddle's contract wasn't hitting. Jalen Waddle's making more money this year than Tyreek Hill. Is this the time to go, oh, man, I'm paying two wide receivers $27 and $30 million a year? It's a perfect time to go ahead and say, yeah, is there somebody else I can give $10 million to? I'm just asking. I don't want to disregard what Keenan Allen has done in the NFL. The guy is a super talented dude. And I wouldn't think that if he were to come to Miami or play for any team this year, that he would be nothing more than what I expect him to be at his advanced age in his career. Sure-handed, shows up on time, consummate professional, probably can coach up some of the younger guys, and whatever you're going to pay him, he's probably going to be close to being worth it. I don't know if the Bears would agree in the 5 games they won this year with Keenan Allen, but for being real, you got a young quarterback like Caleb Williams. You need a Keenan Allen to kind of be there to help that quarterback too. This is common practice. We know this. You get young quarterbacks, you try to get, talented wide receivers, old heads, something like that to help them acclimate to the NFL. We're not there. We don't need an aging wide receiver to help Tua along. And if that's why you're bringing him here, then just say that. That's all. Just say that. And I see I got Color and Ali in the back. You guys want to chime in on this? Because I know you guys think that, Keenan Allen should be everything. Color. Should the Dolphins bring in Keenan Allen? Ali, Color, are you guys there? You guys just sitting back there watching the show?
Sorry, Cap. I wasn't ready, but yeah. I'm sure you're asking about Keenan Allen. I was just ranting off mic about Keenan Allen.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, because it's like, he's one of these guys. I love Keenan Allen. I think he's one of the greatest receivers to play. one of. I think his catching ability, guy is always open, always off script making plays.
Keenan Allen's going to be 33 years old this year. Last year he had a low career, 70 catches, little over 700 yards. He's kind of hit his averages.
But that's the thing is that the older he gets, the more specialized he's going to become. And the fact of it is, this is no different than any other player we get like this, where for the last 12, 13 years, we've sat here and watched Keenan Allen with the Chargers and said, God, man, we'd love to have a guy like that. Why couldn't a guy like that be a Dolphin? You know what I mean? And we always do get a guy like that right when they're ready to come here and enjoy Miami.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like a dime on time.
Typical Miami story, bro.
With a Miami Dolphins time to add some peoples around here. That's I don't like that. That's kind of what we're looking at right now. It's time to add some.
I mean, we might get one good year out of him, because he still cares about winning or something, but it's not going to be the Keenan Allen that we know. I mean, it will be on the occasional play. No, but what I'm saying, Cap, is occasionally this season, we're probably going to be like, good thing we got Keenan Allen a couple times throughout the year. We're going to say that to ourselves. But are we going to get Keenan Allen? Are we going to be able to put him on our fantasy rosters? No. Come on.
So Finn's New Jersey says the only reason I can think to get him over here is that he'd be a better locker room presence for the young guys, but it's not like
you notice how we always tell ourselves that about these players, dude.
And that's that
never comes to fruition.
It's the right deduction of logic, but that's
never comes to fruition. I'm not saying it
never comes to fruition.
Wrong. I'm just saying it never comes to fruition, bro.
What's more likely? What's more likely?
Believe. That's why we brought him here. Remember, that's why we took money off of the Rams' hands and did them a favor so we could teach our young DB room. The guy never even suited up.
No, we just did that as a favor. They paid us the draft pick to do it.
Right.
Yeah, that was some other backdoor shit.
And I'm going to say it real quick, Ali. I'm going to just conclude by this. There is one player in the history of our organization who has come here with the intention of winning and being a part of the Miami Dolphins, and to this day still identifies with our organization, and that's Irving Fryer. Spent his whole career in New England, comes here and becomes Miami.
Well, look, I would say this. To me, is it more likely that Keenan Allen is coming here and getting that final check on his way to moving to full-time in Miami? Or is it that Keenan Allen is the missing piece that pushes the Dolphins, deep into the playoffs?
I don't think bringing Keenan Allen here moves the needle to the playoffs. That's not what this move is made for.
Well, then what's it for then?
Accountability.
Accountability to who?
The wide receiver room. That's what I'm talking about.
Keenan Allen's going to stroll in here and own this team?
I want to clarify some things real quick. First of all, you're telling people that Tyreek's making less money than Jalen Waddle, right? That's not true. I just checked the contract. Tyreek Hill's getting more than Jalen Waddle, just to point that out. That's number one.
I'll have to cross-reference that.
Yeah, you may want to check that because I'm looking at it right now. The cap hit that Jalen Waddle has on this season, and even with the signing bonus, is about $8.5 million, whereas Tyreek is way more than that.
No,
so I'm not sure if that is correct or not, but just want to make sure we're speaking in fact here. Number two, in regards to Keenan Allen, you bring a Keenan Allen in this room to keep accountability. He has locker room presence. You mentioned it earlier. I want to say last night, even in a space, I think you brought up that we even did that with Calais Campbell. Well, I will say Calais Campbell's room performed a lot better than the wide receiver room that we had.
Ali, you're right about the cap hit. They backloaded on the final 2 years, and they've got voided dead money for 2029 and 2030 of $9 to the tune of $9 million. wow. I
Yeah.
guess might as well, because that's when it's going to skyrocket and it won't matter.
So
But,
for me, you do this move for a couple reasons. You do this move to have another option when, to kind of keep everybody in check in the wide receiver room. Number two, you use it to develop a Malik Washington. You keep saying that Taj Washington isn't a rookie. Well, Taj Washington hasn't even sniffed the field yet.
I got it, but
he'll play in the regular season, let alone preseason.
And I'm not going to push back on that, but it's not like he's a star in his eyes, young draft. First of all, what wide receivers did we draft?
Well, we drafted. Well, we did it a year in advance. First of all, with Malik Washington and Taj Washington.
I'm asking, which one did we draft this year? I forgot. Did we draft any this year?
I don't think we got a wide receiver this year.
No, we did not. So we got some UDFAs.
We got
a bunch. What you're really saying is, I want Keenan Allen to teach Taj Washington and Malik Washington, and hopefully some of these UDFAs that get to stick around.
And the reason for that is because I personally believe this is the last year we're going to see Hill. I think Tyreek's
I agree with that, but
so
why get Keenan Allen a year before? I just don't. To me, if Tyreek Hill was leaving, then you could get Keenan Allen. But to bring Keenan Allen in here because you want him to set the tone in a cultural sense for the professionalism of the wide receiver room, which I'm down for the logic in that. I think it's a little redundant to have him there at the same time, unless you plan on giving him a multi-year deal. And are we in a position with this current roster, this current team on the trajectory where it teeters right now to be adding 3-year deal for a guy like Keenan Allen? That's what I'm asking.
Look, for me, I don't think you give him a 3-year deal. You give him a 1-year minimum veteran deal. I'm sorry. It's going to be $1.5 million plus incentives. That's essentially what it's going to be. And he's not going to get those incentives. And the fact that people keep thinking we're bringing him to actually fully play full time like a number 3, that's ridiculous. It's not going to be a number 3.
Then why wouldn't Keenan Allen just say, you know what? I'd rather take that minimum deal that I'm getting from Miami and go and be on the Chiefs, or go and be on, I don't know, the Eagles, or the Rams, or
I don't know.
Buffalo.
Why didn't you ask Keenan Allen why he's interested? Because it's mutual interest is what's being.
Well, I'm sure there's mutual interest, because there's mutual interest for a lot of aging players to play in Miami, because that's where they want to live when they're done. That mutual interest doesn't surprise me. There's a mutual interest in a 30-plus-year-old NFL player to play with Miami. That is across the board. If you are a unrestricted free agent and you're 32 or older, playing for Miami sounds pretty good. A year, maybe 2. I could kind of stick it with Miami for 2 years. I make a couple more mil. I'm living in Miami. I mean, what are we talking about?
For me, I completely understand what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. Where I disagree is I'm not bringing Keenan Allen into play. I'm bringing him in for what he does for the room, as well as everybody else behind them. That's why I'm bringing in a Keenan Allen, especially at the minimum I'm talking about. Do you think? I mean, think about this. We had Color's favorite wide receiver on this roster. River Craycraft, right? We had him for 3 years, 3 years, right? River Craycraft everybody said he's the one guy they could always be reliable to be there where he needed to be on time, put his body on the line, everything, right? If you go back and look at Keenan Allen and what he does the same thing. I'm not saying we're bringing in him to do something. I'm telling him we're bringing him in to show people the way to keep
Keenan Allen
teacher in the room. And if he does play and catch some balls, so what? The guy averages 10 yards a reception. Rock and roll.
Ali, you act like I'm disagreeing with you want to bring in Keenan Allen as the number 4 wide receiver for River Craycraft money. Fine. I'm just saying the logic in it. Because if it's for River Craycraft money, fine, that's good. If I'm Keenan Allen, I'm not taking River Craycraft money. I'm taking $4 million, which is very modest for a guy on a 1-year deal with some incentives, maybe more, like he's guaranteed $4.5 million, and he can make up to $10 million with incentives in the playoffs and shit. And that's kind of probably really around a deal that Miami might offer him. But why am I offering him that? What happened to the youth movement? Keenan Allen is an answer to nowhere in the future. So is it just a 1 year, let's kind of stack this team again? And if that's the case, then go for broke. Restructure a couple, 2 or 3 contracts around here and go get somebody else. Go trade for, the next Debo. To me, making any serious splash moves that are going to be impactful on this year's season.
This is not a move for this year's season. That's what I'm telling you. It's a move
I agree.
to get everybody ready. That's not Tyreek Hill. That's not the people that are not going to be here, ready for the next season. That's what it's for. And I could see them doing moves like this because you and I have sat here and complained about the team not using their youth, not developing their youth. Think about it. Eazy-E never got developed. The guy that we had, what was his name? Preston Williams.
Well,
let's not forget about him. He never got developed. I mean, you have so many youth players that we've had over the years that we really haven't developed, that we see them come and go. At some point, you got to start making it work, man.
Well, what you're going to see? You're going to see more of those young guys that we didn't get a chance to develop go if you bring in a Keenan Allen. That's the facts. That's kind of my point of it. Absolutely. Absolutely. You have Tyreek, Waddle, the new guy, Hicks. You're going to keep Malik Washington. And then you have now Keenan Allen. That means you have one more spot on this roster unless you want to keep 2 more, in which case now you got 7. If that's the case, fine. But now you're carrying 7 wide receivers.
I don't think we're going to carry 7 receivers.
I don't think so either. So it's going to be 6. So
I think it's going to be what you said right there. The first 3 we know: Waddle, Tyreek, and Westbrook-Ikhine. And then you have Malik Washington. That's number 4. And then if you keep a Keenan Allen, okay. But the other guy that I would keep is Armstrong.
I agree. I want Armstrong. I would rather develop Armstrong than waste money and positional and potentially lose Armstrong by not being able to put him on the roster for what potentiality he could be. To me, I understand the logic. If this was the exit of Tyreek and you were getting, what Keenan Allen is perfect for? The same exact thing they just did with him in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Bring him in as a professional, as an older cat for a young quarterback to help settle him into the NFL. And then also
to be able to sit down in the zone perfectly and be an outlet for your
and also a good professional for your young wide receivers to look up to and do that. This team doesn't have a young quarterback. It doesn't have young wide receivers, and it doesn't need an old head fucking guy to step the
other thing, I wanted to real quick, Ali, I wanted to touch on that part about the influencing the younger players and all that, because earlier I had said, we like to tell ourselves that, but it was a point I wanted to touch on from what was it, Sunday or Monday night when we had a show and Ali was talking about this very thing.
Thursday.
And there was one little point I wanted to make to you, Ali, that I forgot, was that, this Keenan Allen is not the type of receiver that we have in the building. So coaching up the young guys and all that doesn't make sense in this case because their skill set is a different type of wide receiver. Like there's 2 types of wide receivers forming now in the NFL. Your tall possession guy and your small Pacheco, Tyreek Hill type, Malik Washington type. They can't help each other, bro.
I understand.
There are 2 different types of like philosophy as wide receiver. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying. I don't disagree with
other than maturity stuff, Ali. I'll give you that. Like being
I get what you're saying, but here is, if you look at the other wide receivers that we brought, and we're talking about this year with the undrafted guys, those guys are tall. They're not shorties like
Yeah,
Tyreek
that's a
and
good
Waddle.
point. And that's a good point.
And-
The guy we drafted, and one of the free agents we brought in,
The
right?
undrafted guy that we got, I'm actually the guy that we signed, Akine Westbrook, is tall.
Right.
And go ahead.
So that's fair to point out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I kind of think maybe, and this is to what.
But does it suggest that there's a shift in philosophy though at the wide receiver?
And this is what I'm about to get at
McDaniel?
real quick, color. And this is what Cap just said. And this is basically kind of what I'm understanding that Cap is saying. This is not the move for this year. This is the move for next year in the event that Tua is walking out the door.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is this a shift in philosophy at wide receiver?
Yeah, and maybe QB
by Mike McDaniel. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that's
a transition.
Well, yeah. Again, I like everything about the logic and why you would need a type of player, even in this stage of his career, of a Keenan Allen. I'm not saying he has no use in the NFL. I'm saying the Miami Dolphins don't have any use for him in 2025. And anything they're going to do is going to cost more money than is worth what we would ever get out of him.
Yeah, because
if we brought him in to get to beat other teams to pay what he'll ultimately get, somewhere between 8 to 12 million for 1 year sample size, probably right around 10, we'll never get $10 million out of value because we should be feeding those targets to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Right.
You give him $4 million and he takes it. What do you say then? $4 million.
I take him.
Okay.
At $4 million, I take him.
My thought process of what you're saying, that this is a move for the next year if Tua's walking out the door. Do you agree with that?
If Tua's walking out the door, I would say it. Even then, next year, I say no, because I'm not
Keller
interested.
Just said it makes sense for if you wanted for a young quarterback to have that outlet zone guy. It makes sense.
Next year, to me, means they're tanking next year for the quarterback the following year.
Now, you're really trying to go for Arch Manning. That's what you're trying to do.
I don't give a shit about Arch Manning. I really don't until I see something with my own eyes that say I want him. Then maybe. But are the Dolphins tanking this year?
Both can be true.
Are the Dolphins tanking currently right now?
It's kind of hard to say.
I would say no, Ali. Come on, they've got only 13 million in cap space available. Teams that tank don't have only 13 million.
I get you
available right now.
But we, look at what we've left wide open. Our secondary, even with Mika Fitzpatrick, is still wide open. We don't know what's going to happen there. You can't tell me that you're not.
I agree. There's mega concerns at the cornerback position, and that goes back to your early thing. I'm not giving $4 million to freaking Keenan Allen. I'd rather give $4 million to a corner to shore up the spots that are it.
And here, now, if you want to say, I'll double down.
Hold on. If you want to say that, okay, let's tank this season, for the quarterback next year, then. Why would they do anything other than try to sell things? Now I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, because
if they don't end up
going to get no butts in the seats.
That's what.
Real.
That's not even that. It's not even that. If Keenan Allen's on your team in a tank year, you're probably not tanking very well.
But even so, you're not.
Good, valid points. I don't disagree with you. I just think that the reason I think that we don't know yet what they're really planning to do, because not only did you leave your secondary with huge holes on both sides of the field, you left your depth at offensive line wide open. I can name all the starters. Can you name the depth behind the starters on the offensive line?
Yeah, I can.
Who?
I mean,
Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon.
That's not an offensive lineman, though.
He means depth. You get it literally. He gave you the literal sense.
I mean, it don't matter if your offensive line is good. Likely with this cat.
I get you. I agree. I think Ollie Gordon's the shit, bro. I don't disagree with that. And I think he's a much better pass catcher than what people give him credit for. But when it comes to the offensive line, if you're really trying to not tank and make a run, you shore up that offensive line before anything else. And they haven't done that. They've done it on the defensive line. Golf clap to that. But they haven't done it on the offensive line.
Didn't we just give Aaron Brewer the bag?
That's a starter.
Aaron Brewer's
like I said, you can name all the starters. You can't name the depth.
Oh, Aaron Brewer. I meant that the focus is there, Ollie. If we're
Aaron Brewer's only getting 7. handsomely at $7 million a year is actually really good. That's a great value for him.
I agree
For
with that.
what we're getting out of him and how he played last year. I'm happy with that. And Joe Rist,
yeah, go ahead.
They're Borum, Meyer, Keon Smith. The problem with that Liam in there, Liam will be a starter.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be playing right guard. Oh yeah, he'll be playing right guard.
Really quick,
and Borum, man, that's some bad tape though. That's some horrible tape. I don't know what they're doing with him, to be honest.
About the tanking question though, I don't think it's tanking so much as it is biding our time until 2030, like I suggested the other night, bro.
Jesus Christ, Color. I don't want to hear that.
And I think
anymore.
a lot of teams are doing it because of the fact that their network contract's going to renew in 2030.
Everyone's looking at friggin' Patrick Mahomes and saying, all right, we'll pull up. That they did this with Brady, and it got real boring there. No, I don't want to. I don't even want to live in that paradigm, Color, to be honest with you, because that's the most depressing thing
going on, though.
I know. I got you. Hit the like button, everybody, please. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button. We need those likes. Subscribe if you're new. Shout out to everybody in chat. I see Carlos Garcia's in here. Yeah, Miami is not taken. They're not right now. Now, if Tua goes down week 4, week 5, and he's on IR, they put in Zach Wilson, and it's abysmal out the gates. They could pull the plug on the team.
Exactly.
Put the UDFA kid that we got from Texas in there and fly by the seat of their pants. But even then, even if you went and got a veteran off the streets and had Zach Wilson and the friggin' the kid from Texas as your quarterback room for the remainder of the season, this team has enough talent to win you 6 games and screw you out of a decent draft position. If you want to tank in the NFL, you got to pull the friggin' plug. And there's not very many coaches that are secure enough in their job to do that. There's not very many teams that are devoid of talent. To tank properly takes 2 years. It does.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with that. I don't disagree. But let me ask you a couple questions. Number one, let's not forget this is the team that got in trouble for tanking. So I'm pretty sure if they want to tank, they don't want to do it with everybody knowing that you're knowingly tanking.
The most wildest thing to think the Dolphins got in trouble for tanking when everybody does it. But go ahead.
I agree. But number two, and this is the big one, if they're not tanking, then why didn't you restructure Tua's contract to open the cap room and really complete the job of the entire team?
Because Ali, they got to make it work as if, because they want to have the potential to tank next year if that's the case.
Okay, so we're working up to tanking is what you're saying.
What Cap is saying is half the fan base would not believe we're tanking because Tua is still our quarterback.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that they're not tanking, but they're not buying in. They're not selling and selling out 2026 for 2025. 2025 is paying for 2025.
Right.
They're not going to mortgage what they're going to do in 2026.
But that's precisely what that video was saying that the teams are doing, Cap, that the Eagles did. That's why I know for certain that we're biding our time for 2030.
Okay. Well, then
the program that you're talking about is why all these 1-year contracts, all these prove it. You always point out very astutely about how Chris Greer structures contracts and all that. That's that is the system I'm talking about.
But nobody's under contract right now to 2030.
I know. That's precisely why.
Because the only reason it's precisely why is because
awful amount of money and a prime position to build a team.
But it's not like you're going to get any more money than anybody else. So I understand what you're saying. Like that's when it'll be the next time to strike. But if the Dolphins are building to 2030, then we might as well close up shop. We're not the only
team implementing that model.
No, I think teams.
I think is copying the Eagles right now.
Well, of course,
because they all know the new network deal hits in 2030.
I get you, and they're all working, around to get to be ready for that point when the deal money hits.
The whole idea is that they can keep kicking. The thing we always talk about with them adding void years. Okay, that is what the Eagles came up with. They're the ones that started that whole thing.
But if
And
every
everybody
team is doing that,
1-year deals and kicking the can down the curb, dude. That's what everybody's
but if every
doing.
team is doing that, and you tank and you get a talented player, that deal goes right out the window because you're like, I got a talent, I can do it. Let's build, and then there's no
Eagles
one
did it with Jalen Hurts, bro.
Can I ask a quick
Yeah, but
question?
they
Because
did
there
it
was
with
something
Jalen
in the
Hurts.
news. There was something in the news today. I don't know if you guys caught that in regards to the NFL executives putting out a memo to try to lower salaries for players.
Oh, you
They're
read
trying-
that
they're-
too?
I
You read
read
that
that. They're-
too? Oh, dude,
It's not.
that
They're
was
trying.
brutal.
It's a little bit wishy-washy. It's not. It's something I literally talked about like a week or so ago. I said it's coming sooner rather than later. It is going to be like a max deal positionally, is what it's going to be. They're going to have max deal, and it's going to be on an inflationary scale, so it'll always go up every year. But the max deal will be that. There'll be no more Deshaun Watson getting all this guarantees and hurting a franchise.
Well,
and
according
also,
to the article, that was the deal that broke the back. That was
Of
the
course
deal
it was.
that caused
Of
them
course
all to
it was.
send the email out.
of course it was. Of course
Yeah.
it was. The teams are like, yo, you screwed me. I can't, they reset the precedent. So what they're trying to do, and I told everybody a week ago, I've been talking about this for years. We've been talking about it for years, that this is an ultimately thing that's going to happen, mainly because the NFL is going to expand abroad, and other teams and organizations, to be fair, are going to need a little bit more structured type of spending schedule to then be competitive in the pool in which they're going to spend for O linemen, for D tackles, for quarterbacks and stuff like that. There's got to be a little bit more competitive advantage in that way. It'll end up doing exactly what happened to the NBA, making it more of a players' league with these super max deals. But that's where it's going. That's what it is, because it's just inflated. It's it's what they're trying to avoid, but they're adopting the measure.
But here's the thing,
they're adopting the system.
For those that didn't get a chance to read the article, the news wasn't that they were colluding to stop the guaranteed contracts. The news is that the management team that makes recommendations for how teams can save money and all that openly and publicly recommended that they do that.
Yes, obviously, because listen.
Like,
you don't
in
have
other
to be a
words,
fucking color. You don't have to be a fucking math.
They literally recommended that you collude.
You don't have to be a fucking mathematician or an actuarius to realize what the fucking problem is. Okay, that's it. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to have multiple degrees from college.
It was interesting that the advisement group was like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to collude." And
well, not just collude, but you're gonna have to sit down as owners and say, "Listen, we can't allow 39% of rosters to go to one position." First of all, it's not good for the game. I don't care what anybody says, especially when they want to protect those guys because of the money. It's not good for anything. It's not good for anything. When that asset is almost half of somebody's salary, and that guy takes a hit from a UDFA freaking linebacker that's trying to make a name for himself, people then get treated differently. It's literally disparaging. And that's where, if you're going to look at it in a political sphere, it's where civil rights would be implemented. And that's kind of what this is. It's a kind of, we can't have everything lopsided. And it's going to go to the owners to say, look, we have to collude by making rules. And they do it every year. And the players are going to be okay with it because it's going to help it's going to raise the bottom. It's going to lower the floor, and it's going to get to more of an even keel. That's what's going to end up happening.
Real quick, and because I'm getting some flack for this in the chat, I need to clarify what my interpretation of tanking means for why I said we could be tanking. Tanking doesn't always mean tear it down all the way to the ground like we did in 2019. We could very well be in what it's called a transition tank, where you're transitioning to a new philosophy. Like on defense, I really believe the defense is going where the strength is going to be right there on the defensive line, and they're not going to be spending big dollars in the secondary. As you see, we haven't signed top dollar corners yet, right? We haven't signed anybody for that position yet, so they're not valuing it as much. Also, we finally starting to really invest more into the offensive line, and I would like to see a little bit more. So I think this year is really going to be us positioning ourselves to complete out those rooms. And if they want to tank in the next year, then so be it. But we'll see what happens. I just think they're positioning themselves better financially, as well as it could be a tank to get them where they need to be to continue.
If I were to interpret what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ali, what the definition sounds like of tanking sounds like anytime winning is not the number one priority in the building.
Well, I would say
if you got in other words, if you are satisfied with not having a winning season for any reason, even if it means you just get a better contract with one player, that's tanking.
I think
if your priority is number one is not winning, you're tanking.
Yeah, I think Mike McDaniel needs to win, but the way that the front office,
you see what I'm saying though, by priority, like if you can rationalize losing, you're tanking.
I get you. That's basically what it comes down to. I don't think they're all in like how we've said in the past. Like
that's exactly what I meant. That's exactly what I'm interpreting, bro.
Yeah, they're not really.
If your number one goal in the building is not to win, then your priorities.
That's kind of why I said bring in a Keenan Allen, because you bring that guy in the transition year. It makes complete sense because you want people to have a different philosophy, and maybe he has been in offenses of stuff that they want to instill.
Well, let me give you an example of that philosophy too, Ali.
Go ahead.
When in a couple years past, when you've heard McDaniel say certain things like, "I care more," or it's obvious that he cares more about a player's health and their future in retirement than he does winning.
Mm-hmm.
That's tanking. I'm sorry, you're not ready to win yet if you're in that mentality, bro.
My point is, if you're all in, you're not tanking. If you're not all in, you're tanking.
If you're all in, you're not worried about what Tua is going to be doing when he's 60.
Well, again, but let's not act like you can just go, balls to the wall, all in every time for the sake of just wanting to. You have to be smart.
Is what I'm getting from Ali's definition of tanking is they could be a soft tank, like a soft tanking. You know what I mean?
I can understand that sentiment of a soft tank. We coined that months ago. Here on the program, by the way in which the team is maneuvering themselves financially to have a lot of money to come off of their books next year, and damn near all the money to come off the following year outside of what we would call key position guys and people on very affordable contracts. And that's why they have decided to not go all in. They could have squeezed out an extra $70 million if they wanted, easy, and backloaded stuff in 2027, 2028. And I told everybody this in the offseason, they could very well do that. I didn't foresee it, and that's what they ended up not doing. And to me, it's the right move because you know what? This team goes out and does what they're doing with what they're fielding to be a very good squad on all sides of the ball. Yes, there's some questions in the cornerback position, and there's some questions in the O-line, but a perfect squad can't be built every time. And they've already done that to try to build the perfect squads, and it didn't work out anyhow. What they need is the guys that are making the money to live up to the money by earning it. And if they do and do well, then they should be good. Because of that.
Remember me all constantly saying that Chris Greer was building this conveyor system with utilizing the West Coast, and to where you can just cycle players in and out with new small contracts like we're talking about with the 1-year deals until you finally, that quarterback just drops out of the sky and your team is already built and ready to go, just like the Eagles were when Jalen Hurts would drop in.
Joe Rist and Michael Kate are stepbrothers now.
Yeah, they are. And Finn's New Jersey says the schedule is ideal for success. It is currently structured. Tua stays healthy, and they do the things that everyone's been trying to live up to the names they have. Then again, all it'll take is some of these other teams to come up short while we should just live up to our own expectations and what we've paid people for. I've really got to be honest. We did this last year. Selling out, renewing contracts, manipulating money, buying, doing that. We've done it the last 2 years. Enough is enough. Now it's time to, you gotta cut costs sometimes, bro. That's it. Could I afford to go out and eat lunch every day? Yes. But is that smart to do? Am I not fulfilling my hunger if I don't go out and eat exactly what my tummy desires every lunch? Or am I smart and being fiscally responsible by packing a lunch or going home to eat lunch or whatever? You see what I'm saying? Both are getting the same result. The hunger is stipend. One is saving me money while the other is wasting money for the sake of whatever. The goals are still met the same. Now, if the Dolphins come up short on their goals with the money that they've spent, then that tells the tale of what needs to happen already. And that means time to switch some things up around here. And then the tank year begins next year. I mean, it could start earlier, but whatever, Hit the like button, everybody. Just want to point out, Michael K's been crying for months about getting himself a wrench. And I feel like he's kind of
I told him to go to
it.
Harbor Freight. It's cheap.
Yeah, well, the last wrench he got from Harbor Freight, he hasn't passed through his colon yet. So
you're not supposed to eat it, Michael K. Damn.
He didn't eat it. That's the sick part, Ali. Real quick, while we close up, 80% say no to getting Allen. Thank you, chat. I never doubted you guys in the voting poll. 80% says no. Thank you, guys. Okay. Never doubted you.
Yeah, seems like a big waste of calories to
look. Michael K says, "Watch it. I gotta remove that comment." No, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna do it. But yeah, just
I used to do the same thing, Raphael. It was all you can eat pizza where I used to go.
I mean, listen, yeah, that was well. See, that's fiscally responsible. I'm hungry, but I also was going to the strip club anyhow. I go to the strip club that gives me free food.
Free
see
dessert?
What I'm saying? Ooh, color, nasty color, the color of nasty. Hit the like button, everybody. Let's go ahead and pivot to the next subject. But before we do, I want to make sure everyone is checking out tftgnetwork.com, the home, the place for everything. Finn's Tailgate family.
Finn's Tailgate.
Get ready to dive into a new world of online shopping with the Finn's Tailgate. Whether you're a die-hard sports fan or just looking for the latest fashion trends, we've got you covered. With a wide variety of products from your favorite sports teams to stylish accessories and home decor, we're your one-stop shop for all things tailgate. Our easy-to-use website and hassle-free checkout process make shopping with us a breeze. Plus, with frequent sales and discounts, you won't want to shop anywhere else. So come on in and join the party at the Finn's Tailgate, your new go-to destination for all things tailgate.
tftgnetwork.com. Make sure you guys are checking it out. Just pop in, check out the website, go to the search engine, type in stuff. When you're sitting around, nothing to do, it works good on the phone, everything like that. Check out tftgnetwork.com. I promise you guys will not be disappointed. You'd be if you really went down the friggin' wormhole, you'd be there a long time because there's so much stuff available on there. Look. Lunch at the strip club, extra saucy. Yeah, it is. Ace in the hood. Hit the like button, everybody. What's up, Cat in a Hat? Who's ready for a big year? Hopefully we're hitting that big year, my brother. All right, so now moving on to our next subject. Zack Sieler. Now, there was a lot of chitter chatter, pitter patter that Zack Sieler wasn't gonna go to camp earlier in the year. And it was even brought up to Mike McDaniel while we were talking about it beforehand. Hey, listen, I'm hearing that Zack Sieler isn't happy, all the way back to when it was Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. And I put out a tweet. I don't have it available. Let me see if I can get it. A long time ago, telling everybody about this. Let's see if I can get it. Let me see. See if I can pull it up. Why is it doing that? There we go. I did it in the wrong spot. Let's see if I can find it. No, that's when I told everybody early about them reworking the deal. Maybe it was.
Everything was better in the 90s, JC. Just admit it. That in the 80s. 80s and 90s were the best years.
Let's see. I don't know. I'll have to look for it. I wasn't prepared with it. But I told everybody about these three players having, a little bit of problems. And they were trying to work out things with these players. Well, two of those three players, when I talked about this, and this is well before anyone was like, oh, Jalen Ramsey's leaving. Two out of those three players were Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey. Now, I never said that they were gonna all leave. I said one of these three were gonna leave for sure. But 1,000,000%, all three want more money, want attention on the deal. Two of the three are gone. Well, there's some money back in here. Why has this not been done now? Why hasn't it been taken care of? What's the holdup right now? Is everybody just on vacation? Well, that ain't true, because they just pulled off a slew of trades right in the freaking 4th of July week. Thumbs up. Hit that like button, everybody. They pulled off a whole slew of trades. So it's not like they're sitting on their hands waiting for the season to come. They got money. They could rework Zach's deal. Listen, if you're going to pay a guy a 3-year deal to live through this year and potentially a tank year and a rebuild type of team, give me a cornerstone like a guy like Zach, who's been here for all of it and then some. A guy that we know is going to live up to whatever he's getting paid and definitely going to be a leader and the type of person you want to be the embodiment of what they talk about all the time, culture around here. So, but what's holding it up? And if I'm going to tell you right now, I have it on immense authority that if this isn't worked out, he'll be there, but he won't be playing. He won't be in pads. He'll be in shorts and a t-shirt just like he was earlier. And he'll be waiting for that to get worked out. Now, to my knowledge, that's happening. They're working it out. So I don't think he's gonna demand a trade. I don't think it's gonna get ugly. I think it's gonna get worked out ultimately because the Dolphins, A, have money, B, like Zack Sieler, and C, Zack Sieler wants to really stay with Miami. Not just, wants to live in Miami because this is his retirement year and blah, 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 blah. No, he is embedded in the culture, embedded in the community. Him and his family have a big ranch in the center of the state of Florida that they do in the off season that his family runs, a hunting ranch type of thing. He is a Floridian now. Zack Sieler is a Floridian. That's it. That guy will live, whenever he's done with his career, he will live in Florida probably the rest of his life. Maybe, when he gets older, he might go. But my point is that doesn't mean he won't hold out. And that holdout could look more than just one way. Dang. I love this. Seal the deal. Fins, New Jersey. Seal the deal. I love it. Beautifully put. Seal this deal. When we talk about doing the right thing by our players that we like, it's for guys like this, the character guys, the guys that that you've been through some shit with. You know what I'm saying? He's been through it all.
It's what they should have done for Van Ginkel, to be honest.
Yes, but even Van Ginkel, as much as I loved Van Ginkel, Zack Sieler has earned it more.
He's had the tougher road. Yes, he's definitely taken the tougher road. I don't disagree with you at all. I know that he wants it. The Miami Dolphins want it, but I will tell you, the Miami Dolphins need to do it. It's not a matter of want, it's a matter of need to. What they want to do defensively, specifically at that defensive line, they need Zack Sieler to lead that group. They need him in the room for that. Without him, this experiment of what we're doing with all these big guys and that defensive line, really, it's not going to work out this year the way they want it to work, right?
Well, not only that, even if they tear this thing down next year, like you could tear things down, but you don't want to tear it down to where like the teams sometimes tear down and it's the worst move. They do all the veterans dirty, they do all the old heads dirty, and the new guys that come in and the young guys that stay around go, I'm not sticking my neck out for this organization. I see what they did to these guys. I'm trying to do my thing and get up out of here.
And see, that's what I think might be the holdup, Chris, is the fact that they are trying to be very careful on making sure they don't overdo it because of that 2026 year that you've brought up in the previous conversation that we just had. If they have to move off of Tua, they don't want to be stuck with all these contracts in a bad situation. I think they're trying to find a fair deal that's fair to him and fair to us without hurting themselves. They don't want to be in this situation where we have to worry about money and start trading people away. That's personally what I think is going on here. They're just being super careful about it. In addition, we still don't know if our guard that we got in the second round is going to sign his contract yet. Who knows when that happens? And we might be looking for a guard on top of it. So you don't want to be strapped for cash after signing him to a long-term deal. You want to make sure you do it right. You have it structured right. You want to make sure the money is right. So you're not in the financial burden that we've been in, at least for this offseason, what it looked like we were going to be in. So I personally think they're going to get it done. They have to. There's no question about it. It's just that they're trying to make sure it's perfect for both parties. That's basically what I think.
So, all right. So Jordan Brooks signed a 3-year deal with the Miami Dolphins, a $26.5 million contract with $16 million in guarantees. And, he's 27 last year. He's 28 this year in the second year of that deal, which now he's guaranteed the remainder of his contract, which would, which is all the dead cap, honestly, over the next 2 years. He'll be here the next 2 years, barring an explosion, in which case they're getting rid of everybody, which could be the case. It doesn't really matter. But his annual monies, he's getting, his cap hit's $11 million this year. His cap hit's $10 million next year. Zack Sieler, on the other hand, his cap hit this year is $12 million. And I'm not, listen, I love Jordan Brooks, and he earned that money that he's getting. Zack Sieler is worth more on his cap hit. And this is his second to last year. Next year, he only has, it's another $11 million. So, I mean, to me, they have the last 2 years voided in that contract when they reworked the deal. All you have to do is rework this deal, give some of the money on the back end for the contract by giving him an extra 11, 12 million. I don't think he needs or wants more than his rate. Just give him 10 more million with another year on the contract on the back end. And you can actually take some.
Zack Sieler, you're talking about?
Zack Sieler, yes. Okay. I think they can take.
You mentioned Jordy Brooks before.
Well, because I wanted to point out the monies are the same.
I get you.
Was my point out for their cap hits currently. In which case, I think that's $11 million a year for Zack Sieler is a bargain when you're looking at paying $13+ million for Jordan Phillips. See what I'm saying? Like, it's not even close. It's not even close to the consistency and the production. And I love Jordan Phillips. I hope he works out. But I know Zack Sieler's working out, and I don't think Zack Sieler's going anywhere. And God forbid if Zack Sieler got injured, I think he would never let an injury be the end of his career. He would be one of these dudes that comes back and is talked about as comeback player of the year or something like that, because that's just the type of dude he is. And those are the type of guys that I want for the rebuild. I want them for the tank year. I want them for the Super Bowl run. If you don't have Zack Sealers on your football team, you ain't going to be successful. That's it. And for the rate and the money, as a cat in the world of cap manipulation, what you do, the value is guaranteed. He's already been valued. Why is this even a discussion? Pay the man another year, open him up for 20. Right now he's under 2025, 2026, and that's it. Add a third year for 2027, give him $11 million more. Take $3 million off of his cap hit this year, backload it to where he's going to now earn $13 million over the next 2 years, and keep it pushing. Keep it pushing. And the guy's here. That's what's going to happen. Exactly what I just said is what's going to happen. Just so everybody knows. They're going to give him a little bit more, like $1 million more on average a year. His overall number will be around 11 million, and he'll get another year on his deal. And the Dolphins will probably save some money this year, in which they should parlay that into some cornerback help, which I think they will. So you can't franchise tag him, Kostra. Let's make sure everybody's hitting that like button. Get them likes up, everyone. We've got had a couple hundred people in the room at some times. Make sure we're getting those likes all the way up. So
just to verify, you can't franchise tag him?
No. Do you can't.
Is there a rule, or you just wouldn't do that, is what you're saying?
I don't. I think if you write it in a franchise tagging is typically for contracts that are expiring your rookie deal, in which case, so if it's a second contract, like say, you like Tyreek Hill, I don't think you can just franchise tag Tyreek Hill on an expiration deal. You actually have to write that in on the contract as an option, like a right to refusal, something like that. Like that has to be written in to franchise somebody on their second deal. The franchise tag, from my understanding, it's not exclusively reserved for rookies, but that's pretty much how it's only been used.
I'm going to look that up. Just curious if we can use it, but I don't think we would want to do that because I think that would pay him more than what we're
he would get like $38 million a year for that year.
Stupid, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather give him $38 million and keep him for 5 more years is what it would do. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you. Yeah. I'm curious if we can do it though. I'm going to look that
up. Fins, New Jersey, tune in tomorrow for that discussion, because that's what tomorrow's show is going to be about. But I did want to get to this final discussion because I feel like it's going to take up some time, and I know Color's going to have some things to say about this. But so as you guys know, there's been some talk over the last few years now in the community by a certain set group of people in the Dolphins community, whether they're true Dolphin fans or Johnny come latelys or bandwagon jumpers or whatever you want to call them. I would really say that these are probably always exclusively these people, because what their tactic has been to belittle Dan Marino. It's been to destroy Dan Marino. It's been to say that Dan Marino accomplished nothing. That Dan Marino ain't won shit, ain't worth shit. ain't nobody. And that's the truth. That's what they're saying out here in these streets. And this is something they did to prop up Tua. To talk about, they would measure Tua's obscure stats against Dan Marino. Dan Marino, a guy who is literally on the tips of everybody's mouths that's seen and know football as one of the greatest to ever throw a fucking football ever. Peyton Manning talking about standing on the sidelines, not talking to his OC and his coach and his players because he has to watch Dan Marino because he's mesmerized. And listen, you know, I'm all about having high standards. And I'm all about, you know, holding this franchise to some form of accountability of what the goal is. In fact, I think we're pretty consistent about that here at the Fins Tailgate and holding everybody accountable. Problem is, these people who like to shit on Dan. That's what they want to do. They want to, the people who like to shit on Dan, they then want to go ahead and clap those booty cheeks for Stephen Ross. They're going to clap those booty cheeks for Tua Tagovailoa. And then they're gonna let, you know, Stephen Ross and his lackeys like Tom Garfinkel off the hook, but they have no problem shitting on Dan. They have no problem shitting on Chris Greer, as long as it's a distraction, looky-loo, to then go to and it's consistent. If you listen to anyone talking about Dan in a negative way, that's a Dolphins fan, ultimately they'll tell on themselves and they will literally say, but Tua, and they'll start talking good. They're going to shit on Dan and talk good about Tua. I got nothing for you. Shout out to Smarty Jams, which is a thick name, Smarty Jams. I love that $5 donation. Didn't we go to the Super Bowl the year before we drafted Dan Marino?
And the year afterwards, yeah.
And the year after.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What if you shit on Dan, but you shit on Tua at the same time?
No, I still am not going to accept it. Not as a Dolphins fan. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well,
I won't accept it. If you're a
sorry,
jit, all right, listen.
You want me to apologize? I'm apologizing to you. Yeah, this conversation's been going on in the Twitter spaces, and I got some news for you, right? I want to preface this because I want you to make sure you understand where certain
I don't understand, but go ahead.
Certain individuals are coming from. And this is people that are within our circle of community, not just myself. Just want to point that out. I'm a Dan Marino fan, right? I own his jersey. I have it in a shadow box hanging on the wall right here. I can show it to you. Everything. I have an actual upper deck Dan Marino card that's made out of gold, legitly. Like, I'm a big Dan Marino fan. But when you really break down Dan Marino and what he accomplished, he's accomplished those things against lesser talent, right?
Who, Dan?
Dan Marino. We'll talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Over 17 years, it was all lesser talent.
Let me finish.
17 years, bro.
Let me finish. Let's start from the top, right? Let's start from the top. I love Dan Marino. I really do. But let's actually think about who he's actually beaten, right? He's beaten the Matt Malones of the world. He's beaten DeBerg, if you remember DeBerg.
Ex-Miami Dolphin.
DeBerg went to an AFC championship game.
He went to Seattle.
They don't want to hear that color, but go ahead, Ali. Keep digging yourself.
Seattle, right?
Who?
Craig, or whatever his last name was. Craig.
David Craig?
Yeah, he beat these guys, right? That's who he's beaten.
Joe
Seattle?
Montana, Troy Aikman.
He beat Joe
Come on,
Montana
keep
in the
listening.
and just to be clarified,
Jim Kelly.
hold
Color,
on.
let him dig. Let him
Damn, I
dig,
can't
Color.
even talk here. If you just let me finish, you'll understand what I'm talking about. We're talking about what we use as a leveling tool when it comes to Tua. We as people that are doubters when it comes to Tua, we talk about the fact that he hasn't taken us deep in the playoffs. He hasn't won in the playoffs, and he can't beat these dominant teams, right? That's what we talk about. Dan Marino accomplished a shit ton against some amazing people, one of the best quarterbacks ever. I agree with you. I don't disagree with that, right? Just to clarify, he did that in the regular season. When you actually break down his record in the playoffs, one, he has less than a 500 winning percentage in the playoffs. He's 8 and 10.
I can't even believe you're going to this.
It's true. It's fact. You can go look it up. It's fact.
Okay, you know what else is fact, Ollie?
Go ahead.
Look up the word paradigm. Look up that word and tell me what the fucking definition is, bro. And stop it already.
Well, I don't want to even talk about the paradigm. You want to talk about the paradigm? Let me guess. You're probably going to tell me.
Okay.
Tell
me who the Patrick Mahomes was winning 3 Super Bowls in the 1980s. Tell me who the Tom Brady was winning 7 championships in the 1980s. Tell me who that was. Oh, that was Joe Montana. He won 2 in 10 years.
Not disagreeing with that. And he only beat Joe Montana in the playoffs once, just so you know that.
Right. Because guess what? It was a different paradigm.
I get what you're saying.
Compare anybody in this day and age on a 17-game regular season, okay, when you can't even talk to players the way Dan Marino talked to his players, let alone the coach. I mean, come on, bro. Let's not do this, man.
Look, I can actually bring facts into this if you really want me to.
Statistics of 2 separate paradigms. Good for you, bro.
Go ahead. Hold on real quick.
Isaac Newton to Einstein.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and Raph is right that he almost took him to the damn Super Bowl. Real quick before we
almost. And who beat him? Why didn't Joe Montana go to the Super Bowl with Kansas City, Raphael? Why don't you tell us?
Ooh, I think I know why. Real quick though, before we get that, Smarty Jams with another $5 donate asks a great question. I want to ask this question, and this question is a poll question in chat right now because it's a good question. Who spun the ball better, Marino or Aaron Rodgers?
Now Ali's gonna hate me because after all of what I just said to him,
I'm going to tell you Dan Marino did.
Aaron Rodgers.
I'm taking Dan Marino.
I would say this.
You're misunderstanding, Color. I'm not hating on Dan Marino. I love Dan Marino.
I'm not misunderstanding. What I feel is you're misunderstanding me when it comes to the application of the word paradigm. You're underestimating it, bro. You're seriously underestimating the difference in paradigm, dude.
Explain to me the difference in paradigm. Explain it to me.
The difference in paradigm is that Dan Marino threw 5,000 yards in one season when the best had only ever thrown 3,500.
Okay. He did that how many times in his career?
Paradigm was everybody ran the ball first, second, and third down every single series.
Okay.
The paradigm difference is the difference that a quarterback makes today, or the difference that the rest of the team can make today compared to years in his paradigm. You're telling me Troy Aikman is really at Dan Marino's level?
I mean,
you're telling me that Troy Aikman's Super Bowls don't have nothing to do with the greatest running back to ever step on the field?
Troy Aikman has 2 Super Bowls. Right. You said that, right?
You know who else has 2 Super Bowls? Michael Irving, Emmitt Smith. Should I continue? Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson.
They got 3. Not Jimmy.
What are we talking about here?
3, right?
Irving got 3, or Irving, Smith, and Aikman all got 3.
Now, if you want to start this, if you want to go with two separate paradigms and really put the onus on who's responsible for us not winning a Super Bowl in Dan Marino's era, that would be squarely on the man himself that nobody wants to say, and that's Don fucking Shula.
Well, look,
there were plenty of running backs that could have got us over the top, like it got Dallas, like it got the 49ers, like it got the Giants, okay? Like it got the Bills. Or was Jim Kelly really that good?
Well, I would say this.
He was competing with those guys in playoff games with 0 running game.
Yeah, that's true.
In a paradigm where the running game was the game.
It's true. It's true. We were far above the curve with Dan, and as we knew, but Dan's special abilities to pass the ball, the game had to catch up to Dan Marino. And he's a victim of being what is a pioneer, a renegade. And to think that that guy has anything in common with anyone not named Tom Brady, Joe Montana, John Elway, and other great names, if you want to put him and start measuring him to guys that should be measured closer to like a Nick Foles, a guy who won a Super Bowl, but let's not act like he's a Dan Marino.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Here and talk about the failures of the Miami Dolphins organization over the years, as if
the failure was never getting a run game around Dan.
Era.
Yeah, that's
I talked about it earlier, Ali. Who did we bring in for Dan Marino? Irving Fryer at the end of his career.
Okay, so you're saying that in his era, in his paradigm or era, if you want to say that, you need a good running game, is what you're saying.
No, I would say one person, and you can put several names on that person. Okay, I will tell you this: in the last game that Dan Marino played, if Fred Taylor's on our team, the score is reversed.
It's true.
Okay,
and everybody knows it.
Well, let's actually look at that real quick, because I'm going to go by history and I'm going to give you stats based on history, right? 1966, Green Bay Packers won the Super Bowl with Jim Taylor, who only averaged 3.5 yards per carry. In 1970, let me finish. Let
him go.
God damn. In 1970, Baltimore Colts won the Super Bowl with Norm Bolek. I think that's how you pronounce it. He averaged 3.1 yards per carry. In 1981, we're getting close to Dan's era, right? San Francisco 49ers won the Super Bowl with Ricky Patton, who only averaged 3.6 yards. 1982, Washington Redskins won the Super Bowl, leading rusher John Riggins, who only averaged 3.1 yards per carry. All right. And only 3.6 yards per carry at the
fact that 1,000 yards in a year.
New England Patriots won with Antoine Smith being the leading rusher with 3.5 yards. I can keep going. I'm telling you,
5 yards a carry back then is
the top running back. You're talking about, look at our team right now. We have star talent up and down the board, right? It doesn't win games for you.
You're wrong, bro, because 3.5 yards a carry back then was just the same as 6 is now.
I'm just telling you, you don't need to have the running back. You don't even need to have the all-time defense, because we actually had a leading defense back then too.
I call bullshit. First of all, you added a third paradigm, okay?
I just went down a list of stats that I
from
found.
The 60s. You
the
brought
60s,
up 5,
the 70s, the 80s, the 2000s.
5
you want me to go to 90s? You want me to go to 90s? I'll go to 90s. Here, I'll go to 90s.
I want you to let me finish.
85. Nathan again had 4.7 yards in 1986. Lorenzo Harrison rushed for 4.5 yards per carry.
5 teams. There has been 50-something Super Bowls. You brought up 5 teams.
I just told you Super Bowl winners. I went down the list. I can keep going if you want. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. People say we didn't have a running game. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar rushed for 1,116 yards.
Okay,
and,
so that particular
ran,
year, the timing wasn't right. So we got 1 running game out of 17 years.
My point is, it didn't matter if we brought in a running game. I don't think it would happen.
Bullshit.
Well, I would say that if you took the current team and put Dan on it now, I'm winning a Super Bowl.
Maybe.
Bottom line.
We'll see.
I wouldn't even say maybe. I would say certainly.
The point that you could even say maybe tells me that you're way out of your league in this debate, bro.
Way out of my league. I just brought facts to you. You're just bringing feelings, not facts.
No, bro. I'm bringing what I witnessed.
Okay. I watched stuff too. I was born during the era of Dan Marino, right? I watched him all the way till he retired.
Facts that don't apply. You're saying the sky is blue for your fact. No kidding, bro.
See, this is what I don't understand. This is the problem, right?
Jim Clunky in the 1960s has nothing to do with this debate, bro.
We sit here
real quick,
up and down. No.
This is what the Tuaneers want. This is why. This is what they want. They want Dolphin fans to fight.
I'm going to call the hypocrisy on this right now.
This whole
hypocrisy is how dare we sit here and ridicule Tua for all the stuff that he doesn't do, and we bring facts.
I don't need to bring Dan Marino down.
You just can't accept it.
Bring Dan Marino down to ridicule Tua. I'll just do it.
Okay, that's based on your feeling. I'm bringing factual information.
All right. Well, hold on, Color. You're bringing the facts, Ali. And what are the facts telling you?
The facts is that he didn't need to have the running game back then.
Okay.
Right? He didn't need to have it.
No, he didn't.
Right?
Well, okay, hold on, Color.
He didn't. He didn't. The team needed it. You're right. He didn't need it.
Real quick. He didn't need the running game. Then why didn't we win?
Well, that's where you got to really look at his actual tape. Look at the all-22 on Dan Marino. In several games,
tell us how many yards per
really
carry
had to win.
had in his career.
Same reason we ridicule him. He didn't win the game for us.
Why don't you tell us how many yards per carry Thurman Thomas had, and Emmitt Smith, and Roger Craig? Come on, tell us all those ones too.
Yeah, I could give you those. And those instances, yeah, they may have actually had high yards per carry. Yes.
5 Super Bowls, bro, for one team.
Emmitt Smith did not win 5 Super Bowls, by the way.
Pretty damn close.
Emmitt Smith won 3. According to Joe Riss, Tua is a drool threat.
I do agree with that. That comment.
And the fact that this discussion only ever started because of the context of the Tua debate is even more ridiculous. And everybody wants to hide it like that's not what they're doing.
It's exactly what they're doing, Color. They're getting you to question what Dan was and what he really is and what he could do in the NFL.
Throw away the season. We can still win with a garbage quarterback.
I don't agree with it. I don't think we can win, but that's just me.
Why not? We got a good running back room.
I don't think we could win. Just because you have a good running back doesn't mean your quarterback is going to do
our quarterback has a 72% completion percentage. Dan Marino's career was only 56. You're going to tell me Tua is more accurate than Dan Marino now?
No, I didn't say that. Why are you bringing?
That's the fact, Ali.
I'm not the one saying that. I'm not the one saying that.
That is a fact.
Okay, those
Tua
are some
is more accurate than
but
Dan
I'm not
Marino.
debating Tua right now.
A fact.
Again, I'm not debating Tua. So I agree with you on Tua 100%.
I'm just telling you the fact. The fact is Tua is more accurate than Dan Marino.
And he just fed into what the Tuaneers want.
No, you are feeding into this idea that facts matter.
Okay. And you're feeding into the idea you're feeling and what you believe matters.
Your feelings too, bro. The fact is Tua is more accurate than Dan Marino. Prove me wrong.
Okay. That's what you think.
No, that's the fact.
Okay, if you
telling me his percentage is not higher than Dan Marino's?
I was not debating. I'm not even bringing Tua into this.
But that's a fact, Ali. Are you telling me that Tua is more accurate than Dan Marino?
Again, you're the one bringing up Tua. I'm not going to debate Tua.
Is it your opinion that Tua is more accurate than Dan Marino?
Again, I'm not going to debate Tua.
You're not going to answer the question?
I'm not going to debate Tua.
I'm not asking you to debate Tua. I'm asking
you are. By bringing Tua into the conversation, it's debating Tua. I'm not going to debate Tua. I don't know how many times I can tell you I'm not going to debate Tua. So just because I disagree with you about Dan Marino, I'm sorry.
I got you.
Dan.
It's okay.
And when it mattered the most in the playoffs, he didn't get the job done.
You don't have to answer. If your feelings are stopping you from answering the simple question, that's fine. It's okay. Don't tell me I'm in my feelings.
Here, you want my answer?
Don't tell me I'm in my feelings.
You really want my answer on that?
I'm in my feelings.
All right. He's going to give the answer. Color, let him give the answer.
I would tell you that it is debatable that Tua is as accurate as Dan Marino because of the fact that it's, as you said, and I'm using your words, it was a different paradigm.
Well, no,
that's exactly what you said.
So now it's debatable.
Were different.
Now the facts are debatable. Now the facts are debatable.
But
okay, I got you.
But still, when you look at where the strengths, or I'm sorry, where the advantage is on the offense or defense, the offense still had the advantage in that paradigm, and he didn't get it done.
It's not true. It's not true.
Did we win a Super Bowl? Do we have a ring?
Did we win a Super Bowl? Has Tua ever even won a playoff game?
Quit bringing up Tua. Quit bringing up Tua. Tua has nothing to do with this.
Tua is our quarterback.
All right. This is the argument that's happening, is the fact that everybody wants to bring it in Tua. I don't want to do that.
So tell me, Ali, if I'm misreading the debate and what it's about, then tell me just why we started to talk about whether Dan Marino was really the real deal or not. Just tell me, what possessed you this morning to wake up and say, today I'm going to debate why Dan Marino was not actually as good as everybody thinks he is?
Actually, we've been talking about it in the spaces for the past 3 days.
Why? Why?
Well, it's because all the Tuaniers that constantly wanted to bring up this conversation.
All the what? All the what?
The Tuaniers wanted to bring up this conversation.
What three letters are in the word Tuanier?
Actually being about it,
three letters are in the word Tuanier.
I think what Color's trying to say, Ali, is that in the destruction of saying Dan couldn't get the job done, he's now equal to Tua not getting the job done, which is exactly what they want. Nobody said a
word about this discussion had it not been for the Tuaniers bringing it up, and you know it.
It's the truth, and again,
I wasn't the one that brought it up. We just
I know
the Tuaniers were.
Again, that's right, and and now there's those that are running with this. Dan couldn't get the job done, and it's aligning with Tuaniers.
Yeah,
it's feeding.
As to why
it's rational.
Feel good about Tua.
This leaves this whole chink in the armor of this Dan conversation is only with motivations to prop up, build up to drag down Dan closer to him, to prop him higher up.
It's not even that, Cap. It's to say, why don't you think we can win with Tua? Despite Tua, we should still throw all our money into paraphernalia and this organization and cheer like little fucking cheerleaders because you know what? Dan Marino didn't get it done either. I'm sorry. 2-9 at the bye. That's what we're going to be. 2-9 at the bye. Bet it.
No problem. I agree with that, actually.
Now, you tell me the last time we were 2-9 with Dan Marino.
2-9 with Dan Marino. I don't know. I don't know when the last time was.
Maybe,
but again,
I don't know how we started the year, but we did go 6-10 one year with Dan Marino.
There was 1 year. I think you're right.
1988, I believe it was.
I get what you're saying. You know, I understand that. But we were just debating what he did in the playoffs, not what he did during the entire
I
regular
understand,
season.
bro. And the
Just so you know
the
that.
playoffs were a completely different game back then. Completely. Otherwise, you would have had more people with 6 championships besides Tom Brady.
Hmm.
The paradigm shift had already happened with Tom Brady about midway through his career. So you can credit Tom Brady for winning like 2 championships in the Dan Marino era in that paradigm. That's why Tom Brady can be considered the GOAT, because he did it in both paradigms.
Very interesting.
So to drive home Color's point, and a paradigm in the game in the 80s and early 90s, where the games, when I was playing football as a kid in the 90s, everybody wanted to be a running back because the game was a running back league. They were the guys going first overall, top 3 picks. It was the wannabe position. Every kid wanted to be a running back. Everybody did that because that's who was propped up on the billboards because they were winning championships. They were the quarterbacks of their era. And the Dolphins in the entire era with Dan Marino had 1 year with 1,000-yard running back. One. And every year Dan had 1,000-yard running back, while teams were, even shitty teams, were routinely putting up plus 1,000-yard rushers.
Like
Miami had one.
Mhm.
Miami had 1 year. And that's the difference. And that's the point that I think the Tuaneers are really losing sight. And the reason is because they weren't there. They don't know the game. They know the football the way it is now. They ain't never seen no kicker come out with one fucking little bar right here around his face. They ain't never seen those guys where they had those, they would tape up their arms and they would have that like splint in there and they would use it to fucking bash each other in the chin.
Something as subtle as this could make all the difference in the world for at least one championship.
Well, no, Color. No, hold on. Something as subtle as this argument gets us a 2026 season with Tua when we should have tanked.
Well,
That's how we end up here. That's how we end up here. This is why I push back on the teardown of Dan, because it is only in use to measure for Tua in a positive light, and I won't stand for it.
But really quick,
real quick before I forget this, because I've been meaning
Hold
to
on,
say
Color. Go ahead, Ali.
real quick. In regards to you talked about the running game and you wanted something from his era. In 1996, when Dallas went to the Super Bowl, Emmitt Smith only averaged 2.7 yards per carry.
I don't care about the average. Ali, hold on.
No, he wanted it from them.
He can average 2.1 yards. Ali, he can average 2.1 yards. But when you feed him the rock 80 touches a fucking game, that's what running backs did. They were fed the ball. Their averages were down lower because their touches were that much higher.
And you also
the ball was thrown 22 times a game. They're throwing the ball 40.
He only had 18 attempts. It wasn't like they gave him like 30 times a game.
With Emmitt Smith in that era, what you need to look at is what was their average yardage pre-contact.
No, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
Okay, I'd have to look into the advanced stats for that.
Again, Ali, hold on, Ali. Emmitt Smith, wait, Color, hold on.
Now, right?
We're going to Color.
Emmitt Smith. In 1996, Emmitt Smith rushed for 1,200 yards.
We're talking about the Super Bowl. We're talking about.
I don't want to hear Super Bowl stats because a specific average yard per attempt Super Bowl stat does not tell the story of a fucking era.
Okay, I get that. My point is that even without a running game, he got us to the AFC Championship game, and we didn't do anything. So my point is he had the team around him. He had the defense, right?
With a running game?
You mean we didn't do anything? Because we got blown out one time?
Besides the 1 year?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Every one of the games were a 3 to 4 point difference, bro, except one of them.
In the playoffs.
Did we get to the Super Bowl after the one time we went?
No.
That's
No,
my
we
point.
didn't. And that's
If you
Dan's fault.
That's all.
I'm not saying it's Dan's fault because not everything
That's
was
what you're.
his fault.
That's
No,
kind
but
of what
it
you're saying.
means is what it means again, and I'm going to bring it right back to Tua. What that means is we've got a chance.
Well, again, you're the one bringing it to Tua. I'm not.
No,
Go, bro.
Ali. This conversation is rooted in Tua propaganda. That's the only reason it's even discussed. Because if you want to really have a discussion of Dan and his effectiveness and why he didn't win the big game, it was never because of Dan, and it was always because of running backs, and it was always.
I made it about who his contemporaries. I compared him to Tom Brady, and I told you that Tom Brady is truly the GOAT because
It's true.
he did it in both paradigms.
And Tom Brady. Listen, I tipped the cap to him.
I'm not disagreeing
Ali.
with that at all. See, this
Ali.
is the real reason we're having this conversation,
Matter of
right?
fact, wait a minute. I'm going to go further.
Okay, go ahead.
Tom
I'll
Brady
let you
has
say.
7 championships because he did it in 3 paradigms.
Ali, I just want to point something out.
Buccaneers win.
Hold on, color.
The 3rd paradigm.
Color, just let me help Ali with this real quick.
You're not helping me, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to help you understand the paradigm. Color keeps saying a little bit.
I actually understand his paradigm, but go ahead.
But I just want to highlight a little bit more on there because in all of the years Dan was here, he had one running back go for over 1,000 yards, and that was at 1,100 yards. In the 12 years that Emmitt Smith was with Dallas, he didn't rush for under 9. He rushed for under 1,000 only 2 years, and those were both in the mid 900s. And balloons
They were probably his last 2 seasons there.
No, it was his first one and his last one.
Okay,
his first year and his last year.
Outside of the Dallas Super Bowls, look at the running game for the Giants.
What year? 96?
Look at
What
the
year?
running outside of the Dallas Super Bowls. Outside of those.
Be careful because I have the 1991 record and fact book, and on that cover is the Super Bowl MVP of that year, Otis Anderson from the New York Giants, who is 3rd in the league in history in total yardage for his career.
Okay. In that year, what was
13,000 yards in his career?
Okay, for that year, Color, I'm trying to ask you the question. In that year, what was his yards per carry?
I don't know about that particular year.
Ali,
all I know
yards
is
per
Otis Anderson
carry.
is going to be in the Hall of Fame.
My point is, I don't think you needed to have an all-star running back to get to the goddamn Super Bowl. That's my whole point.
You did. Yes, you did.
I disagree with that.
And by the way, that year that Joe Montana went to the playoffs with Kansas City, who was their running back? Marcus Allen.
And did they win it?
One of the best to ever play the game. No, they didn't win because Dan Marino beat them.
Okay, well, my point is that I'm trying to prove the point that you didn't need that running back.
I don't
like
know
that.
how this discussion even continues with what I just said about Dan Marino beating them.
Tell you what, look, I want to finish because I let you guys go. I want to finish my whole point of why even this is even in a discussion, right? We sit here and we talk about Dan Marino being all this when the same argument we're trying to say that Tua has, and now I'm bringing up Tua, by the way.
You see how it always comes around?
Let me finish. Hasn't accomplished anything, right? Well, that would make me hypocritical because the reality is, when you come to it, outside of all those records and stats, the same argument that the Tourniers bring up, Dan hasn't done anything.
You're buying their crap. It is not hypocritical to say that, Ali. It is not.
How?
Because
Explain
of the paradigm difference.
It's just it's hard to say that in an era where every team that is winning the Super Bowl is doing it with multiple years of 1,000+ yard running backs. That's one running back. It's not their running back room. That's not their rushing yard total. That's one guy running the ball for them is getting 1,000 to 1,200 a year. Meanwhile, Dan, in a paradigm that was centered around the running back, if you picked up a Beckett, if you wanted to trade a football card, everybody wanted running backs because they ruled the league. Dan was throwing up 1,000,000 yards, 1,000,000 yards. And they could never have that duality of Dan's passing with the running for whatever reason. It never worked here. We never got a good runner. We had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He ran for a little over 1,100 yards, the third to last year Dan ever played for us. Too little, too fucking late. That's it.
Right. And
all these other running backs are getting
Taylor,
7, 8, 6, 5, 900 yards. No one's breaking the 1,000 mark. No one had good averages.
Let me ask you this, Ali. Here's a good one. And you can honestly say no if you don't believe it, if you're not convinced. Okay. 2008. If Dan Marino's on our team, do we go out in the first round of the playoffs to the Ravens?
If what?
In 2008, if Dan Marino is our quarterback, even at the age he would have been in
that's
2008,
when we had Ronnie Brown and Ricky, right?
The first round in the playoffs.
Did we have Ricky that year, or was it just Ronnie Brown we had?
We had both. We were running the Wildcat. We won the division.
Right?
I would tell you this: if you'd have put Ricky or Ronnie on any team Dan was on, they could have fucking won the
Our
AFC.
quarterback didn't even suit up for half the games.
It would be a different game because we actually would have had a real quarterback rather than who did we have? Chad Bennington?
I want to say for half the games, right? Ali. Our quarterback didn't even take a snap for half the games.
Yeah, because it was Chad Bennington, right?
And we won the division. So you're telling me that we go out in the first round, we don't win a Super Bowl that year with Dan Marino?
I didn't say that. I said we would probably win is what I said.
Well, I'm just saying, if you think that we probably would have won the Super Bowl, then you have to give Dan Marino that credit.
Okay. All right. I see your point. In 1991 was when you brought up Otis Anderson?
I believe it was either 90, 91, or 92.
Okay. In 91, he averaged 2.7 yards a carry or per attempt. 1990, he averaged 3.5. Right.
What were his totals?
In 92, he was the worst, not the worst, but 3.1.
And what were his totals those years?
For 1992, he had 10 attempts for 31 yards only. He didn't play very much, it looks like. In 1991, he averaged, he had 53 attempts for 141 yards. Otis Anderson is not, I mean, I understand he was better in the early years.
Yards on his career, bro.
He has what?
13,000 plus yards on his career.
Is that all? That's all scrimmage yards, though, right?
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, because like rushing yards, he only had 10,000. So the 13,335 is yards scrimmage, it says. So that's all yards.
Yeah.
So that's combined. I get you. I see what you're saying, Color. I get it. For me, it's just that
he was the Super Bowl MVP that year, bro.
See, no, hold on. If I may, Color. Ali is saying, I understand where Ali's coming from. And I understand that there's some people that this is what they're saying, that they're trying to bring the standard that even Dan being as good as he was,
it wasn't meet enough. It's basically
no.
That's what I'm saying. If you're going
to say Dan wasn't good enough is wrong. I don't care how you put it. I will tell you this: the Dolphins lost. The Dolphins lost games.
Bro.
Dan just didn't win them.
Call it out. You sound like a Buffalo fan in 1990, bro. That's what you sound
Buffalo
like.
fan.
Well, no. Listen, the Dolphins lost games while Dan didn't win games, but he never lost them. So to say a guy that didn't win games but never lost was not good enough, that's a fallacy.
Yeah,
it's not.
Totally.
It's not true. The Dolphins did not live up as an organization to do what needed to be done as an organization to build the team to get Dan to where he needed to get to. And Dan couldn't do it. They didn't have a running game and they didn't have like pass catchers. They never gave him no fucking Tyreek Hill. God for that. And early in the time in his rookie, when he had all his success in his first few years, that's when he lit it up, and that's when they got the closest. But up until after that, that never happened again.
Yeah, and after I gave all the praise to Tom Brady, name the year where he either didn't have Randy Moss or didn't have the best running game in the league?
Come on, dude.
Name the year that he won the Super Bowl without one of those two components.
Well, yeah, I mean, and again, it's a real hard thing to say that Dan isn't good enough. I won't accept that. That's just not true. Everybody who's anybody who lived in that era, knew the era before and watched the new era, and the guys who look back on the old times, everyone and their mother would say Dan was good enough to do whatever the fuck he wanted on that field. The only thing he wasn't good enough to do was counterbalance a game that centered around the run game while he was the best passer in a run game league. That's it. That's it. He is the best passer in a run game league.
Yeah.
That's
Peyton
what it
Manning
comes
had
down to.
Aaron James, let's not forget.
So, I mean, he's
you know,
dude, he's one of the non-debatable greatest quarterbacks of all time. And no one could say, and if you're going to tell me that a guy that every person, if you're going to say, what are the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Dan's name will never be forgotten in that discussion. No one will ever go, oh, I completely forgot about Dan Marino. No, they're thinking about the greatest quarterbacks, and they think Dan and Joe Montana and Tom Brady.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Color very well illustrated all three paradigms that the GOAT Tom Brady has won in all three paradigms, and that's why he's the GOAT, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you really look at the stats, though, how does he compare with all of the records and everything with Dan Marino?
It's hard. You can't make the comparison because at least half his career had 17 games in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying at least half the year. When did we go to 18 games?
God.
We're at 17.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We were at 16 originally, right? Now, then it moved to 17.
Dan played in 14-week seasons for a bunch of years, too.
No. He never. We were already at 16 weeks games by the time Marino was here.
So the reason I'm bringing it up is really the only reason Tom Brady is the GOAT is because of all the damn Super Bowls, right? That's my point.
Well, let me ask you this. David Woodley went to a Super Bowl before Dan Marino got there.
Mm-hmm.
Should we have just kept David Woodley?
I can't say that for sure or not. But what I can tell you is that we actually hold Tom Brady as a GOAT based on the fact that he won Super Bowls in all these paradigms. So for me, I'm looking at it in a sense that if I really want to hold Dan Marino up at this Mount Rushmore, like I do, honestly, right?
Mm-hmm. He should have won a Super Bowl.
How can I say that the other people are not good enough when this guy hasn't won the Super Bowls, but Tom Brady has? And that's
because the context is real. It's you can't. I don't know what to say, Ali, other than the fact that
Dolphins, Ali.
It's like saying that Megatron. Hold on, Color. It's like saying Megatron ain't a good enough wide receiver because he never won a Super Bowl. Do you see how silly that sounds? Megatron, one of the most gifted freak athletes I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Are we saying Randy Moss couldn't win a Super Bowl until he
Randy
got
Moss?
Tom Brady?
No, they didn't. We didn't win a Super Bowl with Tom.
No, but are we saying he wasn't good enough to win one till he got to New England?
Actually, he only got one eventually, right? Maybe with the Raiders.
He never won a Super Bowl.
Never won a Super Bowl.
No.
Oh, that's right. He didn't get it done. Is that Tom Brady's fault?
They went 17 or 18 and 1. They lost that last game. So that was the closest.
Brady didn't get it done, bro.
Here's what's crazy.
Get it done.
You could literally say that the greatest team of all time is the 72 Dolphins because they went undefeated, correct? But the greatest team ever assembled was probably a different team. And maybe even that fucking team that the Patriots put together. Just unstoppable. Or the Rams.
Team. That team was ridiculous.
But those teams didn't go undefeated.
Yeah.
But those teams didn't go undefeated. Now, again, I get that you can easily say that.
But again, in a different paradigm, did not the Patriots accomplish the same thing, though?
I don't know. But I do know this.
17. They went 17 games before they lost. That's
Well,
17-0. That's exactly what we did.
Well, look,
Because they don't have a
why.
lead to cap it off, it makes it different. Of course it does.
Look, again, we're not asking. Look, by the logic in which, and I'm going to close the show on this, by the logic in which people are saying Dan wasn't good enough, is saying that those quarterbacks, the Trent Dilferds of the world, are better than Dan because they won a Super Bowl. And that is not true. That's just not true. So by saying Dan was never good enough because he didn't win a Super Bowl, so he really ain't shit, that Trent Dilfer's better than him. Remember that same quarterback is the reason in which they measured Tua as good enough to win a Super Bowl because of the likes of Trent Dilfer. And then round and fucking round we go to what is obscure looking at the game. The dogs, the greats, the ones that play it right, they're easy to identify because they stand the fuck out on a field of freaks. And Dan was one. To say
Ali,
he was never good enough is just not true.
You also pointed out that Dan Marino beat the dregs of the league. David Craig, this, that, and the other. Yeah. You know who else he beat? Rich Gannon, Trent Dilfer. He beat those guys too. And they won Super Bowls.
That's it.
I get what you're saying.
He beat the likes of fucking Elway.
I was just talking about in the
everybody he's faced.
What I was talking about. But go ahead.
Yeah. Nobody ever went
He also beat Rich. I want to say he beat not Joel. What's the name?
John Elway.
John Elway.
Yeah. He beat Elway. He beat Aikman.
He
beat all of them.
He's faced.
I don't
There's not one quarterback that Dan Marino has not
only is what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
All right. Well, listen. This Dan Marino topic is a hot one in the sense of just the tone of this discussion here, and it's why it needed to be talked about. And look at what it's done. It creates division, and divide and conquer is the game when you have narratives to push. And there is people going out here in this community with full intention of dividing it with a discussion like this about Dan. And the conquering isn't for a better tomorrow. It's for excuses made for those that could never be even hold the jockstrap of a Dan Marino. And that's just the facts. But I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button on your way out.
Cap, one thing I do want to finish by saying to Ali, yo, Ali, this was actually pretty special, bro, because I really felt like I was a kid again arguing at the cafeteria with all my buddies, bro, because that's the same exact. I've been prepared for this debate my whole life. I've been having this debate, bro.
Colors back at the lunch table arguing, getting ready to have a food fight. It's crazy.
Stuff we were arguing about back when we were kids with all the Buffalo fans and the 49ers fans and the Dallas fans.
Dallas fans. Ooh, those were the worst.
If Dan was, not what he was and had the struggles, it would be different. But you even measured quarterbacks differently. It was like, oh my God, I got a quarterback that threw for 3,500 yards. That was the number. Now it's 4,500's number. There's a whole extra 1,000 yards in the calculus of how you judge quarterbacks and whether they're good or not. See what I'm saying? A quarterback that threw
raising Tua for 4,600 in a down year.
4,600's a down year. Hitting a 4,000 mark seems to be the benchmark. Back then, if you hit over 3,000, you were a GOAT.
Yeah. The good quarterbacks were the ones consistently hitting 3,000 every year.
It's exactly, and to think Dan was hitting consistently 4, and that's good because the numbers in total yards, the Dolphins were the same. The problem was it was a rushing league. It was to bleed out the clock. It was to manage the game. It was to beat down teams. It was just a different game.
Didn't happen. I wanted to say this earlier, Ali. The other thing that didn't happen back then, you would be fired as a coach if one of your players went up to the edge of the end zone and kneeled the ball to burn the clock out. You would have been fired as a coach for doing that.
Because you would run the ball.
Already have the lead.
All right, I'm shutting this down. I appreciate everybody coming through. Hit the like button. Make sure you guys are hitting the notification bell. Keep it on. We'll be on tomorrow because I got a couple more things to talk about that's around the yonder. So tune in next time to the Fins Tailgate. We appreciate y'all coming by. See y'all next time. Fins up.